Hello everybody, I'm Fractal Future and welcome to the Vanguard of Light. So, are you energy sensitive and is the other person? Okay, let's get into this one. This was a good one and it's kind of like, it's really in the moment for me, so to speak. Like it really came up, kind of got myself a little off-centered, was kind of just, not feeling right? So, obviously the best thing to do is stop doing, especially get off the dang computer. But so get off the computer and then kind of like recapture myself spiritually. I got a whole bunch of little practices and do and then kind of decode it. Okay, like what happened and stuff like that. And it was all about like, energetic people and non-energetic people, or energetically sensitive, because we're all energetic people. And this is where, like, if you're here, most likely you're energy sensitive, right? And you're tuned up, you're hooked in, there's more going on out there, and it's not like, well, I believe there must be something. Like, you feel it, like you get it, like so when I'm talking, if it feels like I don't know what he's talking about, maybe you're not energy sensitive. But if you are, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, duh. It's like a duh. But then it's really key to know, is the other person energy sensitive? Because it's like when you come across somebody that is there, because it was like the situation happened yesterday where there was someone that was energy sensitive. I didn't know what it was going to be. It was a business thing. And then all of a sudden it was like, found out that like, oh, you're energy sensitive too? And boom, the conversation changes. Like, it's just like night and day. And all of a sudden it's like, you come home and it's like, they understand, you understand. And it's just like, it like just flows. Like, it just makes so much sense. Like, you're like, yeah, wouldn't you do this? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like when that happens, oh my gosh. Like a perfect example was like say you get a big hit or a big vibe that's saying like, oh, I need to go do this, or I gotta do that, right? You kind of get that hit from source, and it's like, it's a big one where you're like, oh man, I just gotta go check this out. I gotta go do it, right? And like the bigger it is, like the easier it is, because it's like normally a lot of times it's like just a little whisper and you're like, what? Really? You have the doubt, right? But when it's a big one, you're like, man, I'm going to do it. So if you would have told an energy sensitive person that, of like, oh man, I got a big hit and I'm going to go for it. I'm going to check it out. I got to at least, see what that was about. They get it. They'd be like, dude, of course you do. Oh my gosh, you so have to follow that inner voice, go for that. Someone that's not energy sensitive or a norm would not get that at all. They'd be like, what? Almost like the bigger the vibe, the more you push that back. It's like, what? Oh no, I don't hear the voices. I know. Oh, I don't do that. And it's almost like they're turned away, right? Because they are all wired up. They got all the stuff, right? It's not like they don't have those abilities, but they turn away from them. And it reminds me of it's kind of like a part of in the Chronicles of Narnia. There's a part where Aslan was like, kind of like everybody was like ascending in the book, right? Except for the dwarfs. And the dwarfs kind of like turned their back on Aslan and wouldn't accept that he was real, and wouldn't accept that like they were being brought to ascend. And they kind of like just shut down and like, no, and just like in any way in which he tried to show them, they would make it into something else. They'd make, oh, well, it's this, and oh, well, it's that. It wasn't this. It was like, and they like just could not hear his message, could not, feel him, could not ascend. So it's kind of like that. It's like the norms are kind of like that. And that's not your job to like change them, like, because they just don't get it. Like, and it's hard to know, because it's like we're so entrenched in that kind of like energetic world. Even if you're not like, oh, I got my abilities and I have all this like that, we're still entrenched in like that knowing, that feeling, that sense of like, there is a higher power and there is guidance there. We might not feel guided all the time, and we might struggle, and we might have doubt, and we have all that, but we have that sense. We got that pull. And obviously a lot of us, well, we do, we just wish it was clearer and stronger. But that's like that HD connection. And like, if you've ever had a mystical experience, like a profound one, it's like you get it. You're like, oh yeah, man, that's like boom. And it's like you're all of a sudden like get pulled into this HD world, like super HD. And then all of a sudden, like, you know, this 3D world and watched on a little black and white TV where it's like, oh no, there's nothing going on out here. I don't get any vibes. I don't get any sensations. Like, that is so flat. Like, you can't go back to that. It's like, no, I can't do it. I'm like, there's this super HD and like, you know, God called me and I heard, and you know, and then you lose the call and you're like, no, and you want it back because it's so joyous, but also just so intense, so HD compared to like, you know, just the norm reality. But you gotta understand, because the norms have turned away from that, they don't have that sense. They don't have that feeling. So when you start talking about that stuff, it's like, it's completely foreign to them. And they might, I mean, and I'm not talking they're mean or mad or bad people or whatever. They're not at all. They'd be super sweet and nice, but then they just wouldn't get it of like, because they don't feel that. They don't have that like pull and that sense and that like, oh my gosh, something's about to happen. There's a vibe. I can feel, you know, it's just not there. Like, that's been what they've turned away from. So knowing, you know, who you're talking to of like that, because I mean, you feel into them. I mean, you care about them, you feel how they feel, and you know, you got extra senses of that, but they're not going to get that. They're going to just be operating more of like, well, what was their face expression? What was the tone? But yet they're getting all those senses, but they have to turn it off. So it gets a weird kind of inversion, but yet you can feel them and you can feel them react and feel, and so it makes it feel like, well, obviously they're hooked up. Obviously they're energy sensitive, but they're not. They're a norm. You know, and they're obviously hooked up, but they're not feeling it. But you can feel it. So you're like, well, obviously if I can feel it in them, they can feel it. No. And realizing that that's not the case, and it's like, oh, okay. And not like, it's not so much pushing on it, but realizing, because it can also slime you of being like, why? I don't get this. You know, with the energy sensitive person, like, oh yeah, I have to follow the vibe. And all of a sudden it's like, boom, your job's like, oh, you followed the vibe? Oh my gosh, I love when that happens. Versus if you talk to normal, it's like, yeah, I was following the vibe. What? Oh no, I was following the vibe. What do you mean vibe? What kind of vibe? How do you know that's real? That doesn't sound real. Why would you do that? That sounds unsafe. You shouldn't do that. You know, and it's a complete like, and they're not trying to be mean, right? They're not like being like, oh, well, someone would be like, yeah, you're a crazy person. That's actually the best because it's like a real clean of like, you just think you're just crazy. Okay, right? But it's the ones that really care, but yet just don't get you and kind of like, what? Huh? Which is completely different than when that you're like, I got a vibe. You got a vibe? Oh yeah. And then it's like the energetic exchange starts opening up and you feel it and it's just like, yeah. And it's like, you want to do that with everybody. But the norms don't like it. And you don't like it when it's like, But the thing, what this channel is really about, I mean, it's really about you guys, the energy sensitives. I mean, if you're here, you're listening to this video, if you make it through more than one, you're most likely energy sensitive. If anything of what I talked about in this video makes sense, we're like, yeah, you're energy sensitive, right? But it's that all the norms are going to be waking up soon, right? So that's why I'm creating this channel for the Vanguard to like do what I can do to help you guys claim those abilities, because you've got unique abilities that need to be claimed, and depending on how much you've claimed them, then claiming them more, and then being even a brighter Vanguard light. Because when these norms wake up, they're going to be in a mess, so to speak, because they've totally looked like, I'm not looking at this stuff. And all of a sudden it's going to be like, boom, no more not looking at it. And it's like, what do I do? Oh my gosh. They're going to need somebody, you know, that will care, you know, and not be like, well, you're a norm and you, no, we got love in our heart, you know. They're wired up. They just, you know, they're in a, imagine the pain that must be to not know, not feel. You know, it's like they have to believe that there's God's opposed to knowing. You know, no, I know there's source. Man, you kidding me? It's like, it's super HD. Hello. What do you mean? Believe? It's like, yeah, it's no. It's like gravity. You know, you go out, you know, you might not know the physics of gravity, but man, you sure know it works. It sure happens. Like, hey, check this out. Look, every time gravity did it, you know, so it's like the same of like, we're hooked up like that of like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's right there. It's like, it's not, you don't have to go someplace to get it. It's like, boom, right there. But they're going to start waking up, and they're going to have to confront all the ways in which they inverted that, and just the newness and the HD, but I'm not doing HD. So they're going to need people to guide them. And that's going to be you guys. So we're going to wake up as much as can. We're going to know when we're talking to an energy sensitive and like let that resonate big. But then when we're talking to a norm, you know, accept them, like feel what we feel in them. Don't turn us off. We're not changing who we are, but we know they're a norm, and we don't try to make them into an energy sensitive. You know, we don't try to change them. We just have like, you know, empathy for them, caring for them, love for them, just like we'd have for energy sensitive, but we don't like, you know, do the energy sensitive vibe on them. It's like, hey, you got that feeling inside you and this is going on that, and they're like, what? It's like, oh, my bad, you know, it's cool. I'm here when that wakes up for you. I'm here. So I hope that helps to like just get that, because it's so easy to like when you find it, because there's a lot less of us energy sensitives than the norms. They're less. That's changing. We're a lot more waking up. But like when you bump into an energy sensitive and it's just like, man, you just talk like it just makes so much sense. Like but to a norm, it's like Greek, right? And you can get lost in like, of like, oh, of course it felt like that, and oh yeah, I went this way and I felt that vibe, and then you know, this changed and that changed, and then I had an insight and this, and like, and when you're talking to someone else that gets it, it's just so easy, such a flow, you know, you can then forget that they're not hooked up to that, and it's really uncomfortable for them to talk like that, because you're kind of talking about something that they really decided to push down. Right? So there is like a pushback even more so, because they're like actively saying, hey, I'm not paying attention to that stuff. Why are you bringing it up? You know, because they're not like they're not wired, but they're like, I'm actively trying to not pay attention to this. Why are you bringing it up? Kind of. That's what kind of happens. That's where you get like the energetic slime from, of like, so just knowing that like, oh, cool. I don't need to bring that up. And just like kind of, you know, flow in love and be like, hey, when that wakes up for you, I'll be here. So hopefully that helps. Until we talk again, I hope you have a blessed day or a blessed night.